Welcome to the Hidden Bar. Camron has always been in my top 5. Not sometimes, not depending on the era, always. So I'll be honest, it always bothered me how this song gets treated. Get 'Em Girls gets talked about like it's a joke, like it's the moment Cam fell off, like this is the black eye in his catalog. And I never bought that, because to me, Purple Haze Cam is one of the most underrated eras in hip-hop, period. Not just for Cam, for rap as a whole. This album came out during the Rockefeller breakup when everything around him was fractured. The label wasn't fully behind it, the narrative was already turning, and people stopped listening charitably. So instead of hearing structure, they heard nonsense. Instead of hearing systems, they heard jokes. Lines like, "I get the boosters boostin'" became punchlines instead of prompts. And that's the part that always felt off to me. Because Cam didn't get dumber here. He got looser. He got more playful. More dangerous in how casually he said things. So today, we're breaking down Get 'Em Girls. Not to prove Cam was deep, but to show how this verse is doing way more than it gets credit for. How it compresses power, movement, control, humor, violence, economics, and survival into language that sounds silly on purpose. This isn't a redemption video. This is a re-listening, because once you actually sit with these bars, you realize this wasn't Cam slipping. This was Cam hiding the blade inside a joke. And if this song ever sounded like bullshit to you, you probably just weren't listening at the right altitude. Hidden Bar. Let's get into it. I get the boosters boosting, I get computers putin'. Y'all get shot at, call me I do the shooting. I do the recruiting, I tutor the students. I nurture their brain, I'm moving the movement. Okay, I get the boosters boosting, I get computers putin'. This is triple layer wordplay. Boosters boosting. Boosters equals shoplifters reselling goods. Street economy logistics. He's not boosting himself, he's organizing the system. That places him as a manager, not a foot soldier. Computers Putin sonically echoes Vladimir Putin, evoking cold authoritarian control. Also hints at tech plus infrastructure, databases, coordination, modern crime. Cam frames himself as the invisible administrator behind both analog boosters and digital computer systems. Old hustle plus new world. Y'all get shot at, call me I do the shooting. This line flips perspective hard. Most rappers say I shoot. Cam says you get shot at, you outsource violence to me. He's a contractor, not a hothead. Someone whose violence is intentional and selective. Okay? Removing randomness from chaos. There's a subtext. Power is not being violent. It's being summoned for violence. I do the recruiting. I tutor the students. This is where critics miss the turn. Recruiting equals building teams, finding talent. Tutor the students equals mentorship, instruction. He's describing street hierarchy, knowledge transfer, apprenticeship culture. This isn't bragging about crime, it's organizational literacy. Cam frames the street as an institution with pedagogy. I nurture their brain, I'm moving the movement. This seals it. Nurture their brain is shaping mindset, not just behavior. Moving the movement, leadership at the ideological level. He's no longer talking about money or guns. He's talking about influence. This is soft power language, culture, direction, momentum. Okay? Let's talk about why these bars matter. Together. Individually, they sound like flexes. Together, they form a management period. Logistics, which is boosters, computers. Enforcement, which is shooting. Talent development, recruiting, tutoring. Ideology is the movement. That's not randomness, that's structure. Okay? There's a real insight going on here. Cam compresses an entire power ecosystem into 4 playful, almost throwaway lines. The reason people dismiss it is because the tone is casual, the rhyme is bouncy, the delivery is unserious. But the content is executive. This is why Camron raps like he's joking, because if he sounded serious, it'd be threatening. If you present this breakdown to someone and they still call it bullshit, then yeah, they're not listening at the right altitude. Okay?
Whether Buddhist or Buddha, that's Judas or Judah. I got Luger to Ruger, hit from ROOTA to TOOTA, chick from Hooter to Hooter. I put two in producers. I'm the real ball story, the loser of Hoosiers.
Sorry, okay. Whether Buddhist or Buddha, that's Judas or Judah. This is Cam doing compressed theology plus street morality. Buddhist, Buddha, spiritual enlightenment, discipline, detachment, Judas, Judah, betrayal versus lineage, traitor versus tribe. He's collapsing belief versus belief system, individual versus collective, loyalty versus betrayal. The bar isn't saying which is right. It's saying identity is perception based. Same root, different outcome. Same man, different judgment. That's Harlem philosophy, not Sunday school.
I got Luger to Ruger, hit from ROOTA to TOOTA.
This is classic Cam geographic plus sonic mapping. Luger, Ruger, old world to new world firearms, from history to present. ROOTA to TOOTA, playful nonsense phrase that sounds like distance. He's doing two things at once, establishing range, time, space, access, using childish phonetics to mock how casually he holds that power. It's violent imagery delivered like a nursery rhyme. That dissonance is intentional. From ROOTA to TOOTA equals from the root to the tip, from bottom to top, everywhere, all the way through. It's the same semantic lane as from head to toe, from ground to up, from A to Z, from womb to tomb, from soup to nuts, but said in playful, rhythmic, almost childlike black Southern phrasing. That's important. Let's talk about why it sounds the way it sounds. This phrase comes from oral culture, not formal language. The point isn't precision, it's musicality. ROOTA, root, base, origin, foundation. TOOTA, tip, top, end, extremity. But TOOTA isn't a real object, it's a sound completion. Like boop, doohickey, thingamajig. Cam loves these kinds of words because civilians hear nonsense, insiders hear scope, okay? There's a Southern plus black speech pattern thing, okay? In Southern black vernacular, there's a long tradition of doubling syllables, softening hard meanings, turning coverage into rhyme. Think every nook and cranny, from the floor up, all up and through there, inside and out. ROOTA to TOOTA fits that exact same tradition. It's not meant to be interrogated, it's meant to signal completeness. Let's talk about why Cam uses this, okay? Cam pairs it with Luger to Ruger on purpose. That couplet is doing range signaling. Old gun to new gun, root to tip, past to present, bottom to top. But instead of saying it seriously, he raps it in a nursery rhyme cadence so it doesn't sound like a thesis. That's Cam's trick. So the bar isn't I operate across multiple temporal and spatial domains. It's from ROOTA to TOOTA. Same meaning, less guard raised. Why it feels Southern specifically, okay? Because Southern black speech is way more comfortable with playful redundancy, sing-song phrasing, meaning carried by rhythm instead of clarity. That's why you recognize it even if you can't define it. It's not slang you learn, it's slang you hear growing up. From ROOTA to TOOTA is folk language. It just means full range, end to end. Cam uses childish phrasing to describe complete coverage, the same way he hides power inside jokes.
Chick from Hooter to Hooter, I put two in producers.
This is one of the most misunderstanding bars in the song. Yes, it's aggressive. Yes, it's sexualized. But structurally, it's about movement and leverage. Hooter to Hooter is disposable spaces, interchangeable scenes. Two in producers, power over the industry, not just the streets. Cam is saying I move through women casually and I don't revere gatekeepers either. It's not just misogyny, it's anti-authority wrapped in excess.
I'm the real ball story, the loser of Hoosiers.
This bar is insane and people miss it constantly. Real ball story, street success, actual hustle, loser of Hoosiers, NCAA reference, Indiana equals basketball royalty. He's flipping the sports movie trope. Not the underdog who wins, the outsider who doesn't need their system at all. Here's a translation. I don't need institutional validation to be real. Street capitalism over sanctioned glory. Why these bars matter together? Because individually they sound chaotic. Together they form a thesis. Religion is relative. Violence is normalized. Power is portable. Institutions don't define legitimacy. And Cam delivers all of that while never breaking cadence. That's the part critics miss. This isn't randomness, it's density disguised as nonsense. On the surface, Hoosiers is remembered as underdog team, small town kids, pure fundamentals, winning the state championship. But structurally, the movie is really about legitimacy through institutions. To win in Hoosiers, you must buy into discipline, respect the system, play the right way, be validated by organized competition. Even the rebels, Gene Hackman's coach and Dennis Hopper's character, only become heroes after they submit to structure. That's important.
I'm the real ball story.
When Cam says this, he's already rejecting the movie's thesis. He's saying my success story is real, not cinematic, not inspirational, not sanitized. Ball works on multiple levels. Basketball, Hoosiers domain, hustling, balling, high stakes risk and reward. Cam's ball story doesn't end in trophies, applause, institutional approval. It ends in survival and dominance.
The loser of Hoosiers.
Why loser is the key word. This is where people miss it. He doesn't say I'm the Hoosier. I'm winning of Hoosiers. He says loser. Meaning, if my life were judged by their rules, their court, their system, I lose. And he's fine with that. That's a rejection of the American sports movie fantasy. In Hoosiers, the court is clean. The rules are fair. Look at what surrounds the bar. Religious ambiguity, Buddha, Judas, weapons spanning eras, Luger, Ruger, disposable spaces and people, violence delivered casually. That's not a world where Hoosiers logic applies. Cam's environment doesn't reward discipline, doesn't care about fundamentals, doesn't crown winners fairly. So he's saying the loser of Hoosiers is actually saying I refuse to measure myself by a fantasy that never included me. Okay, there's a deeper flex. By invoking Hoosiers, Cam shows he knows the reference, understands the myth, rejects it anyway. That's cultural fluency plus defiance. He's not ignorant of the system, he's choosing not to worship it. That makes the bar sharper than just I don't play basketball. There's a Harlem translation in plain language. If you had to say it bluntly, the bar means I'm not the type of success story white America likes to celebrate, but I'm still successful, and my story is real. That's why the bar lands harder the older you get, okay? Let's talk about why this is perfect for what I do at the Hidden Bar, okay? Because this isn't just a punchline, it's a philosophical stance wrapped in one sports movie reference. Camron knows the rules, knows the myth, knows he'd lose their game, builds his own anyway. That's not throwaway writing. That's worldview compression. And when you connect that back to the chaos and excess of the verse, the line stops being random and starts being quietly defiant.
I rock mostly DOLCE, I roll mostly DOLIE. I'll leave you holy, you'll say holy moly. Here come the Corin, the killer, plate roly-poly. I tell you true stories, how I coldly hold heat.
Okay, I rock mostly DOLCE, I roll mostly DOLIE. This line is doing status plus motion at the same time. Rock mostly DOLCE, luxury fashion, European elite taste. Not just I'm fly, but I know which fly matters. Roll mostly DOLIE, riding solo, independent, no entourage. So he's pairing high visibility with DOLCE with low reliance, DOLIE, DOLO. That's important. Cam isn't flexing safety and numbers wealth, he's flexing self-contained power. Fashion says I've arrived. DOLIE says I don't need protection.
I'll leave you holy, holy, you'll say holy moly.
This is classic Camron. Religious wordplay plus gun violence plus comedy cadence. Holy, holy, holy. 3 spellings, 3 different meanings. Holy, W-H-O-L-L-Y equals completely. Holy, H-O-L-E-Y equals full of bullet holes. Holy, H-O-L-Y equals divine, shocking, unbelievable. Triple entendre, don't ask me how. He's compressing cause to effect to reaction. What happens to you, wholly, HOLEY, the extent, wholly, WHOLLY, the witness response is holy moly, okay? And he does it without changing rhythm. That's the flex. Violence isn't dramatized, it's linguistically tidy, almost cartoonish, which makes it colder.
Here come the coroner, get 'em, play roly-poly.
This line shifts perspective after the act. Coroner equals death is already assumed. Play roly-poly means bodies rolling, collapsing, tumbling. But roly-poly is a child's phrase. That contrast matters. Death is treated as routine. Language stays playful. Emotion is absent. Cam is showing how normalized violence in his world, not glorifying it, not lamenting it, just reporting it with numb humor. But the second layer, the pill bug, roly-poly, is where Cam gets quietly tactical. A roly-poly bug rolls into itself, protects its core, becomes small, unnoticeable, survives by disappearing. So when Cam says, here come the coroner, get 'em, play roly-poly, he's not just narrating aftermath, he's issuing a command. Let's talk about what the bar is actually saying when you expand it. Sequence-wise, it goes, violence happens, holy, HOLEY, death is confirmed, coroner. Now it's time to disappear. Play roly-poly equals fold in, lay low, minimize visibility, survive the consequences. That's not bravado, that's post-action discipline. And that discipline ties directly to the next bar.
I'll tell you true stories, how I coldly hold heat.
Cold doesn't just mean emotional detachment. It means controlled enough to know when to hide. Most rappers stop at action, aftermath, celebration. Cam includes escape logic. That's the difference between fantasy violence lived in reality. In real life, the story doesn't end when the shots stop. It ends when you don't get caught. Okay? There's thematic consistency with the verse. Look at the pattern now. DOLCE to visibility. DOLIE is independence. Holy, HOLEY, is violence. Coroner is consequence. Roly-poly is concealment. Coldly equals emotional control. That's a full operational cycle. Cam isn't glorifying chaos. He's describing how to survive it. Okay? There's a reason why critics miss this layer. Because they hear a silly word, a cartoon phrase, a throwaway rhyme. But Cam always hides survival logic inside humor. If you don't know the street meaning and the natural metaphor, you miss it. That's hidden bar doctrine right there, okay? Let's talk about the line rewritten in plain English, okay? The body's dropped, the authorities are coming, now fold in and disappear. That's not nonsense, that's strategy disguised as playfulness.
I'll tell you true stories, how I coldly hold heat.
This is the grounding line. He snaps back into authenticity. True stories. This isn't exaggeration or metaphor. Coldly, emotionally detached, disciplined. Hold heat, armed, ready, controlled. This is Cam rejecting the idea that he's just saying wild shit. He's saying, I joke, I rhyme, I flip words, but the source is real. That line retroactively re-anchors the entire verse. Let's talk about how these four bars work together. Taken as a unit, the sequence is status, DOLCE, independence, DOLIE, capability, holy, inevitability, coroner, and number 5, credibility, true stories. That's not random flexing, that's narrative compression. Why critics miss this is because they hear fashion brag, gun bar, wordplay, violence, and stop there. But Cam is actually doing what he always does. Making brutality sound casual to show how casual it is. The humor isn't softness, it's armor. Okay? Pretty much saying, I'm fly, I move alone, I'm dangerous without emotion, and none of this is imaginary. That's a lot to fit into 4 playful sounding lines. And that's exactly why Camron gets dismissed, because he makes density feel easy.
When it's reppin' time, I get on extra grind. Fried the fricassee, pepper seed the pepperdine. Jeff Hamilton, Genesis, leather time. Bitches say I'm the man, I tell them never mind. When it's reppin' time, I get on extra grind. This is Cam setting context and intent. Reppin' time equals when it's time to stand on business.
Extra grind, more than normal effort, heightened mode. He's saying when things turn serious, I don't coast, I overperform. This isn't casual hustle, it's situational intensity. Cam isn't always on 10, but when it's time, he turns it up. That's important for what comes next. Fried to fricassee, pepper seed to pepperdine. This bar is nuts in how much range it covers. Fried to fricassee is 2 cooking methods, street food to upscale cuisine. Also implies escalation from cooked to overcooked. Fricassee is a cooking method. Meat is cut up, fried lightly, then slow cooked and stewed. So it's not just fried, it's fried, then cooked again. That matters. When Cam says fried to fricassee, he's saying I didn't just handle it, I overhandled it. I stayed on it until it was completely done. That pairs cleanly with extra grind. This is the finish the job energy, not flashy violence. Pepper seed to pepperdine. Pepper seed equals raw, basic, street level. Pepperdine, elite, private university. Pepperdine University is elite, private, wealthy, West Coast, very far culturally from Harlem. So, pepper seed equals raw, basic, street level origin. Pepperdine equals polished, elite, institutional destination. This is a class mobility bar, not just a rhyme, and it mirrors fried to fricassee perfectly. Raw to refined, basic to elevated, process to completion. This is Cam saying I move from the most basic, gritty environments to elite institutions without switching who I am. It's class mobility without assimilation. He's compressing culinary language, education, geography, social class into one rhyme chain. Jeff Hamilton, Genesis, leather time. Now he anchors the metaphor in material reality. Jeff Hamilton Jeff Hamilton, iconic black luxury designer, especially leather jackets. Genesis could be the beginning of an origin story or a rise. Leather time suggests visibility, status, presence. This line is about showing up in form, not just making it somewhere. He's not sneaking into elite spaces, he's arriving correctly, okay? There's also layers. Genesis equals beginning or origin, but it's also tied to reppin' time from earlier. Genesis literally means beginning. So when Cam says, when it's reppin' time, I get on extra grind, Jeff Hamilton, Genesis, leather time, he's saying when it's time to represent, I go back to my origin mode. Leather here becomes armor, uniform, identity gear. Leather equals what you put on when it's time to handle business, physically or symbolically. This isn't fashion for leisure. This is function. There's another layer. Jeff Hamilton equals black luxury with street roots. Jeff Hamilton matters specifically because he's black. He built his name on leather jackets. His jackets were street icons, not runway-only pieces, worn by hustlers, rappers, athletes, not just models. So when Cam says Jeff Hamilton, he's signaling I'm entering elite spaces without shedding street identity. Now connect that to pepper seed to pepperdine, fried to fricassee. Same theme, elevation without assimilation. There's another layer, and this is the sneaky one. Genesis as reset mode. Genesis isn't just a beginning, it's a reset, creation after nothing. So Jeff Hamilton, Genesis, leather time can be read as suit up, reset mindset, enter work mode. Almost like put the jacket on, switch mental state, handle what needs handling. That connects directly back to extra grind. This is ritual language. Why leather time is the anchor. All right. Leather is jackets, gloves, protection, grip, durability. So metaphorically, leather time means time to get hands-on. Not talk, not flex, action. Which completes the sequence. Reppin' time to responsibility, extra grind is effort, fricassee over application, pepperdine, high stakes environment, leather time, suit up to survive it. That's not crazy, that's cohesive. Why this doesn't feel like a reach, okay? Because Cam stacks metaphors, reuses escalation logic, pairs luxury with labor, never separates style from survival. If this were random, the food, school, fashion, and labor metaphors wouldn't all point the same direction, but they do. When it's time to represent, I lock in. I overhandle the situation. I move from the rawest levels to elite spaces, and when it's time to work, I suit up and get my hands dirty.
Bitches say I'm the man, I tell them never mind.
This is the emotional twist. After all that grind, range, status, validation, he shrugs it off. Nevermind isn't humility, it's detachment. Cam is saying external validation doesn't move me, which circles back to the first line. He grinds when it's necessary, not for applause. Let's talk about how these 4 bars function together. This isn't random flexing, it's a philosophy of movement. Lock in when it matters, be able to operate anywhere, show up looking correct, and don't get drunk off praise. That's grown man hustling logic. Cam doesn't explain, he lists. He lets juxtapositions, proper nouns, casual tone do the heavy lifting. Alright? If you don't know what fricassee is, what Pepperdine represents, why Jeff Hamilton matters, you think it's just rhyme soup. But it's social commentary disguised as swagger. When it's time to represent, I lock in. I can move from the lowest to the highest spaces. I look like I belong, and I don't need your applause. That's not filler. That's a worldview. And stacked with the rest of the verse, it completes the picture. Cam isn't chaotic. He's selectively intense, broadly fluent, and emotionally cold. That's Purple Haze Cam in a nutshell. Let's talk about the chorus.
They getting nice. They got some ice. Let's get the dice and roll 'em.
Get 'em, girls.
They getting chips. They flipping bricks. Get the rocks and pits. Tell 'em, get 'em, girls. She acting feisty. Getting shisty. Call up wifey. Tell her, get 'em, girls. Just lay back. Get your face slapped. We at the racetrack. 8 stacks. Get 'em, girls.
Cam isn't expressing feelings. He's describing systems in motion. Every couplet follows the same formula. Someone is already winning. We escalate the risk. Someone else executes the move. That's important. All right.
They getting nice. They got some ice. Let's get the dice and roll 'em.
Okay. This is about momentum. Getting nice equals leveling up, improving. Got some ice, visible success, jewelry, proof of win. Dice, chance, gambling, risk. Here's the translation. Once success is visible, it's time to press luck, not relax. This is anti-safety logic. Cam is saying success invites more risk, not comfort.
They getting chips. They flipping bricks. Get the rocks and pits.
This is straight street economics. Chips equals money. Flipping bricks equals converting product into profit. Rots and pits equals leftovers, scraps, and undesirable parts. There's a hidden meaning. Even the waste has value. Cam isn't glorifying hustle, he's describing efficiency. Nothing gets wasted, everything circulates. This ties back to the verse themes. Fried to fricassee, pepper seed to pepperdine. Same idea, full utilization. Same idea, full utilization. Dice plus chips equals one risk language. Okay, dice and chips are the same universe. Dice equals chance, probability, volatility. Chips, money already converted into risk units. That matters. Cam doesn't say they got money, let's spend it. He says they got chips. They're already in the game, so let's roll dice, press the risk. Meaning, once money becomes chips, it's no longer savings. It's exposed. This mirrors the whole song. Success doesn't bring safety, it brings escalation. So the chorus isn't random hype, it's a risk spiral. Get the rots and pits equal scraps and security. Yes, rots and pits equal leftovers, scraps, undesirable parts. But Cam never stops at one meaning. Rottweilers plus pit bulls are guard dogs, aggressive by reputation, used for protection, not aesthetics. So when he says they getting chips, they flipping bricks, get the rots and pits. That's operational logic. Money is moving, product is flipping, security now becomes necessary. And the scraps meaning still works. Dogs eat leftovers. Protection is fed by excess. Wealth produces both waste and danger. So rots and pits becomes use what's left over to protect what you built. That's street infrastructure thinking, okay?
She acting feisty, getting shisty. Call up wifey, tell her.
This is about delegation and insulation. Feisty, shisty equals unpredictable, potentially risky behavior. Call up wifey equals bring in stability, structure, cover. Cam separates chaos versus control, fun versus responsibility. He doesn't resolve tension himself, he passes it to the system. This is the roly-poly logic we caught. This is consistent with the roly-poly logic we caught earlier. Know when to step back. Feisty, shisty, go to call wifey equals control versus chaos. Now let's handle this carefully but honestly. She acting feisty, getting shisty equals energy is rising, behavior is unpredictable, things could spill over. Call up wifey, bring in someone trusted, someone who can absorb and redirect that energy. The line does carry sexual dominance undertones, but more importantly, it carries control logic. It's the same theme as roly-poly, know when to fold in, coldly hold heat, emotional control. So instead of chaos escalating publicly, it gets pulled inward, contained, neutralized privately. That's discipline, not indulgence.
Just lay back, get your face slapped. We at the racetrack, 8 stacks.
This line is often misheard as pure bravado, but it's actually about speed and stakes. Racetrack equals fast money, quick turns, no pauses. 8 stacks equals fixed buy-in, known risk amount. Layback equals don't overthink, let momentum carry you. This is high-speed capitalism, not chaos. Cam's world moves too fast for reflection, okay? Dogs to racetrack equals a full gambling loop. This is where our connection gets really clean. We already established dogs equal protection, rots and pits. Dog also equal racing, betting, speed. So when Cam says, we at the racetrack, 8 stacks, he completes the cycle. Think about the order. Dice to chance, chips to money risk, dogs to protection, racetrack to formalized gambling, 8 stacks to fixed wager, known exposure. He moves from street level gambling to structured betting. Same instinct, different arena. And crucially, protection comes before the racetrack, meaning you don't gamble unless your house is secure. You don't risk unless you're insulated. That's grown hustle logic, okay? Let's talk about why the chorus repeats, get 'em girls. This isn't random hype. It's outsourcing action. Get 'em girls functions like a command, a chorus of enablers, a background system doing the work. Cam positions himself as observer, director, beneficiary, not the hands-on executor. That matches roll mostly DOLIE, coldly whole heat, and never mind as detachment, okay? Let's talk about big picture what the chorus represents. The chorus is the operating environment. The verses equal Cam's internal logic, and the chorus is the machine around them. It shows money moving, risk escalating, people playing roles, and no moral commentary, just motion. When momentum starts, we gamble harder, maximize everything, delegate chaos, and keep it moving fast without emotional attachment. That's not filler, that's infrastructure. And that's why the chorus feels hypnotic. It's not meant to be heard, it's meant to be entered, okay? Let's talk about get 'em girls as a command phrase. This is subtle but smart. Get 'em is a hype chant, a delegation, also literally what you say to dogs. So the hook works on 3 levels. Encouragement, outsourcing action, releasing controlled aggression. Cam isn't saying he gets them, he's saying send them. Again, distance, insulation, control. The chorus is a closed economic loop. From money to risk, risk to protection, protection to confidence, confidence to more risk. No morals, no reflection, just motion. And that's why it repeats. It's not a statement, it's a cycle, okay? Once money enters risk mode, we escalate the gamble, secure the perimeter, redirect chaos, and keep betting because motion is the point. That's not accidental writing. That's systems thinking disguised as a chant. And the fact that all of this is hidden behind simple, almost playful language, that's exactly why Cam gets dismissed, and exactly why this song belongs in Hidden Bar.
You acting funny, nigga, come dumb, dummy, nigga, killer, keep 20 blickers. I'm getting money, nigga, so you should move away or join a dude and play. Hey, so you can say, I'm getting money, nigga.
You acting funny, nigga, come dumb, dummy, nigga. This line is about misreading the room. Acting funny equals moving unpredictable, disrespectful, or sideways. Come dumb equals approach foolishly, underestimate. Dummy nigga equals someone who chooses ignorance. Cam is saying if you miscalculate me, that's on you. This isn't rage, it's warning language. Killer keep 20 blickers. This line is intentionally exaggerated and that's important. 20 blickers isn't meant to be literal inventory. It signals redundancy and preparedness, meaning I'm not dependent on one option. That echoes earlier themes. DOLIE, self-contained. Extra grind, over-prepared. Roly-poly, survival discipline. Cam's power comes from having backups, not bravado.
So you should move away or join the dude and play.
This is the real bar. Cam offers two paths. Move away, avoid conflict, opt out. Join the dude and play, align, participate, benefit. There is no third option. That's not cruelty, it's hierarchy logic. He's not hunting random people. He's saying don't interfere unless you're ready to be involved. Join the dude and play equals conditional access, not belonging. We're absolutely right to think that this isn't come be one of us, it's you can operate under us. That distinction matters. Join here doesn't mean in-group, brotherhood, equality. It means permission, proximity, utility. You can play, but it's their game. Why this is quiet extortion, okay? Cam doesn't say pay me, kick up, you owe, because real power doesn't need to announce terms. The structure of the choice does the work. Move away means lose access to opportunity. Join and play means gain money, lose autonomy. That's a tax system. And crucially, the tax is implied, not negotiated, which is exactly how quiet extortion works. Play is the tell in that line. Play sounds casual, but in this context it means operate, work, participate in circulation. You don't play for free. You play on someone else's court, under someone else's rules, with someone else taking first cut. That ties directly back to chips, dice, racetrack, 8 stacks. Every game has a house. Cam is the house, okay? There's a reason why you'll never be in the in-group, okay? This is the coldest part of the bar, okay? If you join, you make money, get protection, avoid conflict. But you don't set rules, own infrastructure, or accumulate real power. You're allowed to eat at a margin. That aligns with Cam's broader tone. DOLIE, self-contained, coldly, detached, never mind, unmoved by validation. He doesn't want partners. He wants systems. Okay. Let's talk about how this fits the verse perfectly. Remember the opening. You acting funny, come dumb. Okay? That's not anger. That's assessment. Then move away or join the dude and play. Assessment to classification to placement. That's managerial thinking. Not emotional. Not impulsive. Administrative. Okay? You can stay out of my way or you can make money under my umbrella. But either way, you're not my equal. That's the bar. And what makes it Camron specific is he says it casually. He doesn't moralize it. He doesn't justify it. He just states the structure. Okay. Let's talk about why this layer matters. Okay. This is where Cam stops sounding like a reckless street rapper and starts sounding like someone who understands power without intimacy.
Hey, so you can say, I'm getting money, nigga.
This line reframes everything that came before it. The goal is not violence, dominance, intimidation. The goal is money. All the threats, warnings, and options exist to protect one outcome: uninterrupted motion toward profit. This ties directly back to the chorus logic. Chips, dice, racetrack, 8 stacks. Everything circles money as the organizing principle. Let's talk about why this section matters structurally. This is Cam explaining how people interact with his ecosystem. You can stay out or plug in, but you can't drift, test, spectate disrespectfully. That's not chaos, that's order. Okay? In plain English, if you move wrong, that's your choice. Either fall back or get in line. Everything else is noise. I'm focused on money, bruh. This verse isn't emotional, it's managerial. Cam isn't wild here. He's laying out terms and conditions, and that's consistent with everything we've already clocked. Detachment, control, systems, survival.
First pile up in the rear, I style up in my gear. Stallion of the year, medallions in my ear. Whips on my fist, houses on my wrist. Your budget on my neck, your spouse on my dick.
Okay, first pile up in the rear, I style up in my gear. This is contrast by timing. First pile up in the rear, chaos, collision, aftermath, people crashing out. I style up in my gear. Composure, presentation, readiness. Cam is saying, while others are dealing with consequences, I'm getting dressed correctly. That fits the roly-poly, coldly hold heat logic. He's not reacting emotionally, he's moving on schedule.
Stallion of the year, medallions in my ear.
Here Cam shifts into animal plus status metaphor. Stallion equals dominance, breeding power, prized male, uncontrollable energy. Of the year, award framing, competition, ranking, medallions in my ear, trophies, proof, adornment. This isn't just sexual bravado, it's hierarchy language. He's framing himself as valuable, chosen, displayed, which sets up the next escalation. Stallion of the year equals dual ownership, dual display. The stallion is doing double labor here. On the first layer, what we already covered. Stallion is a dominant male, prized horse, energy, virility, status. That part is obvious. Let's talk about the second layer, the one that people miss. In street plus hip-hop slang, stallion has long been co-opted to describe a woman with a powerful, well-endowed body, especially hips, thighs, and ass. A body that draws attention the way a prize animal would. So when Cam says stallion of the year, he's doing intentional ambiguity. I am the stallion, I arrive with the stallion. That's not a contradiction, that's mirroring. He says I'm dominant and I move with dominance. I style up in my gear to stallion of the year. This sequencing matters. He doesn't say stallion first, then appearance. He says I style up, then you see the stallion. Meaning, the presentation is curated. The woman on his arms is part of the ensemble, just like the gear, the medallions, the cars, the jewelry. Not in a dismissive way, but in a status signaling way. It's the same logic as Jeff Hamilton jacket, medallions and ears, houses on wrists. Everything visible is symbolic capital. Okay. Medallions in my ear equal trophies, not accessories. When you pair stallion of the year, medallions in my ear, you get animal imagery, prize, judged, ranked, chemistry, awards imagery, medals, trophies. This turns Cam into the winner, the exhibitor, the one being looked at, which mirrors racetrack culture, horse competitions, gambling environments. This is not accidental. Horses, racetracks, gambling, one continuous motif. We clocked something really important. Earlier we had dice, chips, dogs, rots, pits, racetrack. Now we get stallion. That's not random escalation, it's refinement. Dogs equal protection. Horses equal investment and betting. You guard the house with dogs. You make money with horses. So Cam moves from defense to high stakes display and wagering. Same ecosystem, higher tier. Your spouse on my dick. Who is he referring to? Is it definitively the same stallion woman? We can't say 100%. But does Cam want you to connect those dots? Yes. Because structurally, he just introduced a prized woman. Then immediately invokes another man's spouse in a dominance context. So whether literal or symbolic, the meaning lands as the women I move with and the women you're attached to are both under my influence. That's social dominance, not just sexual shock. It's the same humiliation logic as your budget on my neck. Financial plus romantic status collapse at once. And let's talk about why this fits Cam's writing style. Cam loves mirrored ownership. I own the game. The game reflects me. I am the stallion. I walk with the stallion. He's not just in the system, he's symbolizing it. Okay? I walk in styled with a prize beside me, decorated like a winner, operating in gambling spaces where power, bodies, and money all circulate, and I dominate across all of them. That's not accidental swagger, that's thematic continuity. And the fact that this ties back to racetracks, gambling, display, risk, ownership means this verse is way more architected than people give it credit for.
Whips on my fists, houses on my wrist.
This is pure asset compression. Whips equals cars, houses equal real estate, fists, wrists equal body parts. Cam is saying my wealth is so normalized it attaches to my body. He's not listing possessions, he's showing ownership density. That mirrors earlier lines. Chips instead of money, dice instead of cash, 8 stacks instead of a lot. Everything is converted into units. Your budget on my neck, what else? Your spouse on my dick. This is the ugliest bar on purpose, and it's not accidental. Cam is doing economic humiliation, not just sexual provocation. Your budget on my neck equals your entire financial capacity as my accessory. What else? Dismissal, boredom, inevitability. Then the last line isn't about sex. It's about the total loss of status. He's saying, I out-earn you, outrank you, and outposition you socially. It's a zero-sum flex. Your loss is his proof. Why this section sounds so aggressive? Because this is the peak of the verse. Earlier, Cam was tactical, detached, procedural. Here he's asserting dominance after the system is already built. This isn't him hustling. This is him standing on outcome. While others crash out, I stay composed. I'm dominant, decorated. My wealth is bodily, and my position eclipses yours completely. It's meant to be excessive. It's meant to be uncomfortable, because Cam is showing what happens when power isn't trying to be liked. And honestly, after everything we've already broken down in this song, this section reads less like random vulgarity and more like the inevitable conclusion of the system he's been describing the whole time.
Posters on the wall, posted on my balls. Dick in her mouth, I tell her I'm getting money, nigga. Y'all faking the fizzle. I'm caking for shizzle. Fuck a sizzler steak, my estates, they sizzle.
Posters on the wall, posted on my balls. This is status versus access in one couplet. Posters on the wall, fandom, distance, people admire from a fear. Images, not interaction, posted on my balls. Proximity, access, intimacy, not admiration, control, and closeness. Cam is contrasting being looked at versus being chosen. It's crude on purpose, but structurally it's saying, I'm not a figure you admire, I'm a figure you engage with. This mirrors earlier themes, house versus renter, owner versus participant, in-group versus outsider.
Dick in her mouth, I tell her I'm getting money, nigga.
Stripped of shock value, this line is about priority hierarchy. Cam is saying, even in moments of pleasure, my identity is fixed. Money isn't a goal, a phase, a performance, it's the core narrative. That's why he keeps repeating I'm getting money in contexts where it feels excessive. It's meant to sound obsessive, which ties back to extra grind, dice, chips, racetrack, join and play, taxed participation. Money overrides everything else. Y'all faking the fizzle. I'm caking for shizzle. This is illusion versus accumulation. Faking the fizzle is pretending to emotion, heat, buzz. Caking, stacking money quietly, tangibly. Cam is separating appearance of success from actual accrual, which mirrors ice versus chips, posters versus proximity. This verse is obsessed with the difference between looking rich and being rich. Fuck a sizzler steak, my estates, they sizzle. This is a scale comparison bar. Sizzler, chain restaurant, mass-produced luxury surface level nice. Estates, land, property, permanence. Sizzle works both ways. Food sound also is heat, value. Cam is saying I'm not impressed by consumables. My wealth is structural. This loops cleanly back to houses on wrist, your budget on my neck. It's all about durability versus flash. Let's talk about how these bars function together. This isn't random vulgar flexing, it's a status ladder. Idolized versus accessed. Pressure versus priority. Appearance versus substance. Consumption versus ownership. Each line escalates away from fantasy and toward infrastructure. People admire me from a distance, but I control proximity. Pleasure doesn't distract me from money. Others fake momentum, I accumulate. I don't spend on symbols, I invest in structures. That's the through line. And when you zoom out, this section reinforces what the whole song has been saying. Camron isn't loud because he's insecure. He's repetitive because he's singularly focused. That's why even the wildest lines still point back to the same engine: money, control, access, and insulation. Let's talk about what this section is doing overall. This isn't narrative rap anymore. This is velocity rap. Cam is compressing time, layering sound effects, turning money, sex, violence, and music into rhythm. Think of this section as life moving too fast to stop and explain itself. 8 boom boom, my ace boom coon. This line is about completion versus loyalty. 8 equals finished, consumed, handled. Boom boom, action, impact, consequence. Ace boon coon, trusted right hand, inner circle loyalty. So stripped down, the job's done, the impact landed, and my trusted people are still with me. That fits the ongoing theme: tight inner circle, outsiders taxed or excluded, motion protected by loyalty. Shake, bake, skate, vroom, vroom. This is process language, not nonsense. Each verb implies movement. Shake, prepare, agitate. Bake, finalize, cook. Skate, glide through. Vroom, vroom, accelerate. It's a full production cycle. Raw to unfinished to distributed to sped up. Cam is turning hustle into assembly line rhythm. Okay? 7th to 8th, zoom, zoom, boom, boom, tunes. This is time compression. 7th, 8th, consecutive days, non-stop grind. Zoom, zoom, speed, no pauses. Boom, boom, tunes, soundtrack to the chaos. Life is measured, not in reflection, but in beats and impact, which is why this feels musical more than lyrical. For I get life, that boom, boom, room. This is dark but important. Cam is acknowledging consequences exist, the clock is ticking, the lifestyle isn't pretend, meaning before the system catches me, I'm still moving. This isn't bragging, it's fatalistic realism. Before the systems catch me, I'm still moving. It echoes earlier: roly-poly, hide when needed, coldly, emotional control, move away or join a dude and play, structural options, Rex in effect, zoom, zoom, in poom, poom. This is cultural shorthand, not just shock. Rex in effect is early 90s rap group known for playful sexual bravado. Zoom, zoom, call back to their style and era. Cam is anchoring himself in the hip-hop lineage, a tradition of rhythmic excess, music that values energy over explanation. Its nostalgia weaponizes cadence. Since the movie Cocoon had my Uzi platoon. This is one of Cam's coldest contrasts. Cocoon, aging, rebirth, extended life. Since the movie Cocoon is a very long time ago. Uzi platoon, constant readiness, protection. He's saying I've been moving like this for decades. Longevity plus danger coexist. This ties back to Genesis, the origin, extra grind, stallion of the year. Cam isn't new, he's enduring. Let's talk about why this section matters. This isn't about clever metaphors, it's about saturation. Cam overwhelms the listener with motion, sound, references, and speed, so you feel the lifestyle instead of understanding it cleanly. That's intentional. Things move fast, the circle is tight, the work never stops, consequences loom, and I've been operating like this for a long time. This is Cam turning chaos into cadence. And honestly, this stretch explains why people think the song is nonsense, because it refuses to slow down for interpretation. 8 boom boom, my ace boom coon, shake, bake, skate, vroom vroom, we getting money nigga. 7th, 8th, zoom zoom, boom boom tunes, for I get life, that boom boom room. Alright, let's just talk about it again. For I get life, that boom boom room. This line works on 2 lanes at once. Direct movie references Life in 1999. In Life, Eddie Murphy's character Ray keeps fantasizing and talking about his NYC nightclub, Ray's Boom Boom Room. It's a running joke escape hatch in the film, a symbol of the life he thinks he's supposed to be living even while he's trapped in prison. So when Cam says, "before I get life," he's doing a slick flip. Before I get life, the movie world, that fantasy nightlife, I'm in that boom boom room, club life, women, motion, loud money. It's a cinematic flex. He's not just saying I'm outside, he's saying I'm in the exact kind of spot the movie used as the dream version of freedom. Okay? Street meaning, life equals a life sentence. Even without the movie, get life is common slang for catching a life sentence. So the line also reads like, before the consequences catch up, I'm still in the club, still active, still moving reckless. That gives it an edge, celebration under a countdown clock. And notice how this sits right after his string of boom boom zoom zoom sounds. He's making the party and the violence share the same onomatopoeia. Okay? Rex in effect, zoom zoom, in poom poom. This is Cam being Cam. He drops a real world reference and then immediately Camronifies it into sex talk. The exact reference, Rex in effect's Rump Shaker. Rump Shaker is the famous record where the hook is basically zooma zooma zoom and a boom boom. That zoom boom combo is the whole signature of the song. So when Cam says Rex in effect, he's basically pointing at the audience like, you know what I'm referencing. You hear the cadence, you hear the chant. Let's talk about why Cam swaps it into poon poon. He takes the sound of Rump Shaker, a party record with women dancing, and turns it into motion, to sex, to conquest. Zoom, boom becomes a rhythmic engine for everything he's bragging about. It's also a structural trick. He's using pop culture earworms as mnemonics. The more childish sing-song it sounds, the more it sticks, which is why people dismiss it and why it's secretly effective. Okay? Let's talk about the angle that ties all this together. Cam is doing a mini movie plus radio montage in 2 bars. Movie fantasy of freedom, life's boom boom room, classic party chant, Rex in effect, zoom zoom, boom boom, and then he overlays them onto his world where boom boom can be club speakers or gunfire, zoom zoom can be cars or sex or getting away. So the layers aren't random word soup. It's Cam using shared cultural references as a decoder ring for his own persona. Funny, flashy, criminal adjacent, and always performing.
My team is the Goonies. We was seen with buffoonies, toonies, best dressed, stay up in Neiman's and Bloomies. Wanna hit it from the back, she agreed that I'm loony, but proceeded to moo me. I'm getting money, nigga.
Alright, my team is the Goonies. We were seen with buffoonies. This is a sneaky opener. The Goonies equals outsiders, misfits, kids who win anyway. He's aligning his crew with underdog genius, not polished elites. Seen with buffoonies does 2 things at once. Admits proximity to clowns, establishes separation from them. Okay? Cam is saying we can be around fools without becoming fools. That's power. Tricksters survive chaos. They don't need purity. My team is the Goonies is a triple entendre. Cam is stacking meanings. Pop culture, the Goonies equals loyal crew, misfits, ride or die outsiders. Street slang, goons equals enforcers, killers, people who really get busy. There's the Cam irony, cartoon framing for very real street power. So when he says my team is the Goonies, he's really saying my team looks playful, but they're dangerous. That's Cam's signature move. Soft language for hard reality. Seen with buffoonies equals controlled chaos. Buffoonies aren't just idiots. They're reckless street energy. People who move with anything goes logic. Unpredictable crash out types. So Cam is positioning himself as someone who can be around wild, unstable energy without becoming it. That's hierarchy. That's leadership. That's a boss surviving among crash dummies, okay? Toonies, best dressed, stay up in Neiman's and Bloomies. Now the flip. Toonies keeps the cartoon language going, but immediately Neiman Marcus, Bloomingdale's, high fash injected into childish imagery. This is Cam's signature contradiction. Immaturity plus luxury equals dominance. He's telling you I can be playful and elite. I don't have to switch personalities to access wealth. This is Harlem surrealism, Bugs Bunny and couture, okay?
Wanna hit it from the back, she agreed that I'm loony.
This line is supposed to feel throwaway, and that's the trick. On one level, Cam self-labels as loony, which disarms moral judgment. The sexual bravado is exaggerated, almost cartoonish. Cam uses self-caricature as armor. If he exaggerates himself first, critics have nowhere to land. But on a surface human level, the line is also just playful banter. It sounds like that moment where two people already like each other and one says something bold, half joking, "I want to hit it from the back." And the response isn't rejection, it's a smile and a, "Boy, you crazy." Not offended, not shot down, just flirtatious disbelief. That matters. Because Cam isn't portraying aggression here, he's portraying ease, comfort, familiarity. The confidence to say something wild knowing it'll be received as joking charm, not threat. The loony label becomes flirtation, not dismissal. That duality is genius. Cartoonish enough to feel unserious, real enough to feel lived in. He's simultaneously performing a persona, reenacting a very normal social moment, which is why the line slides past you the first time and sticks when you really think about it. This is where it quietly gets brilliant. Instead of conquest, he gets rejection, mockery, exposure. She moons him, and then the hook drops anyway, meaning even when the fantasy collapses, the status doesn't. That's key. He's saying my worth isn't dependent on winning every interaction. Money, movement, momentum continue regardless. This is anti-macho in disguise. But there's a key flip, okay? Proceeded to moon me, could not be rejection. Let's walk it slowly. Wanna hit it from the back. She agreed that I'm loony. At first, there's skepticism. She's like, "You're crazy." But proceeded to moon me. That's not mockery. That's literal wordplay. Moon me equals show ass, bend over, exactly what he asked for. So the structure is she calls him crazy, but still gives him what he wants, which confirms his power anyway. And then the ad-lib hits, "I'm getting money, nigga." That's the reason. She thinks he's wild, but money overrides doubt, okay? Let's talk about why this is actually even better than the rejection read. This interpretation does something Cam loves. It looks like a loss, then flips into a win without changing the tone. That's trickster excellence. He lets the line sound like rejection to casual listeners while rewarding attentive listeners with a payoff. It's a bar that works comedically, sexually, structurally, thematically. Let's talk about how this fits the song's core thesis. The song is obsessed with one idea. Momentum beats judgment. People can doubt him, call him crazy, misunderstand him, but outcomes keep landing in his favor. Money keeps moving. Status keeps translating. Access keeps opening. Baby BS and Honeydew, Cam VS 1 and 2. I help you get your son out of PS22. Get him a MAURY flow from the MAURY show. Fuck around, y'all gonna be up on the MAURY show. Baby BS and Honeydew, Cam VS 1 and 2. This line is Cam flexing coded luxury plus insider shorthand. Baby equals endearment, but also a tone setter, casual, intimate. BS and Honeydew sounds like nonsense, but it feels like money talk. Cam VS 1 and 2, diamond clarity grades. So what he's doing is sliding high-end jewelry talk into baby talk cadence. That contrast matters. He's saying I'm talking sweet while describing expensive stones without stopping to explain it. It's wealth so normalized it gets spoken playfully. Let's talk about BS as bullshit or nonsense on purpose, okay? Cam knows the phrase doesn't immediately resolve. BS and Honeydew can literally register as this is some bullshit wrapped in something sweet. That matters because Cam often foregrounds nonsense to signal that he's not playing by traditional lyrical clarity rules. It's almost meta. Yeah, this sounds like bullshit, but keep listening. That defiance of coherence is part of the trickster posture, okay? Let's talk about Honeydew as sweetness, softness, femininity. Honeydew is sweet, soft, associated with comfort and indulgence. So BS and Honeydew can read as bullshit wrapped in sweetness, which fits perfectly with the surrounding bars. Flirtation, diamonds, helping someone's child, spectacle. Cam is describing a world where money talk, charm, manipulation, affection all blur together. Nothing is clean. Everything is coded. Cam's real skill is letting the meaning stay loose. Here's the most important part, and this is very Cam. He does not want the line to lock into one meaning, because the second he pins it down, it loses power. Instead, it functions like a vibe setter, a texture line, a rhythm glue between clearer references, VS1 Diamonds, PS22, MAURY. It's there to keep the verse fluid, keep listeners off balance, and signal that meaning is coming in clusters, not signals. This is why critics hated it and why it's actually advanced. Let's talk about why this supports our misjudged verse thesis, okay? People heard BS and Honeydew and thought, this dude is just saying anything. But that is the technique. Cam is operating in impressionism, not realism. Collage, not thesis statements. He's painting a feeling of wealth, chaos, humor, and access, not delivering a sermon. BS and Honeydew isn't meant to decode cleanly. It's Cam using playful, almost nonsense language to keep the verse light while he's actually talking about money, diamonds, and social mobility. The sweetness masks the chaos, which is exactly the world he's describing, okay?
I'll help you get your son out of PS22.
This is a wild bar socially, but very Cam. PS22 equals public school, basic, loyal, regular. I'll help you get your son out equals access, resources, leverage. He's not bragging about education in an academic sense. He's flexing mobility. Translation: I can move people out of default situations. That's real world power, not theory. Get him a MAURY flow from the MAURY show. This is where Cam's humor turns darkly observational. Referencing MAURY show isn't random. MAURY represents public spectacle, family drama, paternity questions, generational messiness. MAURY flow equals drama as style, chaos as narrative. Cam is saying even attempts at fixing things can slide into spectacle. That's cynical but accurate.
Fuck around, y'all gonna be up on the MAURY show.
This is the warning shot. The flex flips into consequence. On one level, Cam's talking invisibility. Money can elevate, but messy behavior puts everything on display. Fame doesn't just spotlight success, it spotlights mistakes. He's mocking the idea that wealth automatically equals control. You might escape one situation, but move reckless and you end up famous for the wrong reason. But there's a second, more literal layer hiding in plain sight. Fuck around isn't abstract here. It's physical, it's behavioral, it's careless intimacy. Move without protection, move without the wrong person, move sloppy because you think money insulates you, and suddenly your private life becomes public spectacle. MAURY isn't just a TV show in this bar, it's a symbol for exposure, paternity, accountability, consequences you can't talk your way out of. The joke lands because it's funny, but it sticks because it's true. Cam's saying you can afford a lot of things, but you can't buy your way out of biology, optics, or responsibility. That's the beauty of this line. It works as humor, it works as social commentary, it works as street wisdom, and it works as literal advice. No stretching, no reaching, just Cam doing what he always does, letting one phrase carry multiple realities at once. Okay? Let's talk about what this whole pocket is really doing. Cam is compressing 3 social layers into 4 bars. Luxury, diamonds, money, access. Mobility, pulling people out of public systems. Spectacle, how fast can it all turn embarrassing? And he does it without changing tone. That's important. No moralizing, no lecturing, just observation wrapped in jokes. This is exactly the kind of writing people missed. If you're listening for seriousness, clean metaphors, linear messaging, you'll hear chaos. But if you're listening for social commentary, class movement, media critique, humor as camouflage, this is tight. Cam isn't sloppy, he's layering fast. Cam wasn't failing to be profound, he was refusing to sound solemn. And that refusal is why people misjudged him. This verse isn't dumb, it's playfully ruthless. And yeah, this absolutely supports the argument that the verse people used to call trash was actually operating on a level they weren't listening for.
He at boot camp. You on food stamps, welfare, no health care, a true tramp. And I'm Lokie-Lokie, leave you pokey, no rice-a-roni, that's the okie-dokie.
He at boot camp, you on food stamps. This is a split screen flex. He equals discipline, structure, forward motion. You equals dependency, stagnation, government aid. Cam isn't just insulting income, he's contrasting trajectory. One person is being trained for something, the other is being maintained. That's cold but precise. This is where the MAURY reference becomes multi-episodic, not just a punchline. Earlier MAURY functions as paternity exposure, sexual recklessness, public humiliation, the you are not the father side of chaos. But then Cam pivots. He at boot camp, you on food stamps. That's not random. It's the other MAURY trope. MAURY didn't just do paternity tests. He also sent out-of-control kids to boot camp. So now the bar does double duty. On the surface, your kid is away, you're broke, your life is upside down. Underneath, this is the same storyline continuing. Same woman, same reckless situation, different consequences. You fucked around, ended up on MAURY for paternity. Now the fallout is a kid you can't control, sent away for discipline while you're still stuck in survival mode. The chaos compounds. What makes it hilarious and dark is that Cam never resets the scene. He assumes you know the show, you know the tropes, you know how these stories usually end. So one reference unlocks multiple episodes of dysfunction. Then he twists the knife. Welfare, no health care, a true tramp. Now it's not just spectacle, it's systemic. Government assistance without stability, survival without protection, exposure without support. The MAURY stage lights are off, but the consequences stayed on. So when people hear this is Cam just clowning, they miss that he's actually doing narrative compression. He takes sex, irresponsibility, fame, poverty, parenting, discipline, and collapses them into 4 bars. That's not sloppy, that's efficient. Okay, let's talk about why this angle is lethal in a good way. Because once you point it out, you can't unsee it. It's not, wow, that's deep for Cam. It's, oh, he never left the metaphor. He stayed on MAURY the whole time. Same stage, same mess, different episode. Welfare, no health care, a true tramp. This line sharpens the blade. Welfare equals survival, not stability. No health care equals vulnerability, long-term risk. True tramp equals not just broke, but reckless and unprotected, financially, socially, and physically. He's saying this isn't a temporary struggle, this is a pattern. Also notice the hypocrisy he's pointing out. The system keeps you alive, but not well. That's an underrated critique hidden inside the insult. And I'm Lokie-Lokie, leave you pokey. This is straight cartoon violence plus trickster language. Lokie-Lokie equals playful, mischievous, chaotic, almost childlike. Pokey equals sudden harm, stabbing, consequence. Cam frames danger as casual, like I'm joking until I'm not. That contrast is the threat. I'm Lokie-Lokie, leave you pokey. This bar is doing stealth to consequence in 8 syllables. Lokie-Lokie. On the surface it sounds playful, nursery rhyme energy, but semantically it carries low visibility. Low-key, under the radar, out of sight, not annoying presence. Low-key isn't loud menace, it's absence. Cam is saying I'm not flashing, I'm not barking, I'm not posturing. I'm there, but you don't clock me. That's important. Let's talk about the switch, because the next phase doesn't escalate gradually, it teleports. Leave you pokey. Now the effect appears before the action is registered. Pokey isn't cinematic violence. It's small, repetitive, close-range damage. That matters. This isn't a shootout, a spectacle, a warning. It's intimate harm. By the time you realize something happened, you're already bleeding. There's already a hole. The damage is done. That's why the jail shank instinct is dead on. Okay? Let's talk about the actual implied scene in the whole thing. This bar paints a moment, not an act. You don't see the attack. You don't notice the results. You look down. There's blood on your shirt. You didn't even clock when it happened. That's prison logic. That's street logic. That's watch yourself logic. Cam's saying you're worried about loud threats. You should worry about quiet people. Why Loki matters more than pokey. Most people focus on the violence word, but the real flex is the discipline of staying unseen. Cam frames danger as patient, controlled, opportunistic, not emotional, not impulsive. That's why it's scarier. Tone is everything here. Notice how he never raises his voice linguistically. Childlike words, soft syllables, almost joking, which mirrors the behavior he's describing. I'm calm, I'm casual, I'm invisible until I'm not. Let's talk about why this ties back to the MAURY and chaos thread. This also contrasts with the MAURY idea perfectly. MAURY equals loud chaos, public, broadcast, everyone watching. LOKIE-LOKIE equals private order, quiet, hidden, controlled. Cam is drawing a line between people who live messily in public and people who move deliberately in shadows. One ends up exposed, the other decides when exposure happens, okay? Let's talk about why this interpretation is strong. We're not saying Cam is describing a stabbing. We're saying Cam is describing how danger actually shows up. That's smarter. It's harder to argue, and it fits his persona perfectly. Low visibility, delayed realization, irreversible consequence. That's not a threat. That's a warning, okay? No rice-a-roni. That's the okie dokie. This bar looks silly, but it's actually doing work. Rice-a-roni equals cheap filler food, bare minimum survival. No rice-a-roni equals I'm not scraping, I'm not settling. Okie dokie keeps the tone light, almost nursery rhyme smooth. So even when he's talking about violence or poverty, he refuses seriousness. That's power through unseriousness. Start with what's solid, the anchor, okay? No rice-a-roni. That's the okie dokie already does a few undeniable things. Rice-a-roni equals chip filler substitute food, knockoff sustenance. Okie dokie equals trick, sleight of hand, being played. So at minimum, the bar is about rejecting substitutes and not falling for fake value, okay? That part is rock solid.
Me and Toby, homie, make you do the hokey pokey. Pull a pound up and down, turn yourself around, shorty. Here's some weed, burn yourself a pound, warty. Here's a map, go learn yourself a town, sporty. I was down 40, now I'm up 50, buck quickly. Who could fuck with me? Killer.
Me and Toby, homie, make you do the hokey pokey. This sounds goofy, but it's forced movement. Hokey pokey isn't dancing for fun here. It's being made to move, being controlled, reacting instead of acting. Add me and Toby and it becomes two sources of pressure. You're not just choosing steps, you're responding to commands. It's intimidation dressed as a children's game. Pull the pound up and down, turn yourself around, shorty. This line completes the metaphor. The hokey pokey instructions, up and down, turn yourself around, are now paired with the pound to weight, money, force, leverage, intentionally ambiguous. So the children's rhyme becomes a coercion manual. You move when I move. You turn when I say turn. You react to what I'm holding. It's choreography under pressure. Me and Toby, homie, make you do the hokey pokey. Pull the pound up and down, turn yourself around, shorty. Hokey pokey equals children's dance, turned into coercion. The hokey pokey is instruction-based movement. Put your right foot in, put your left foot out, turn yourself around. Cam weaponizes that innocence by making it sound like he's giving commands, except the dance is happening because someone's life is at stake. Pull the pound equals gun, and the double meaning is the whole trick. Pound equals weight, literally. So pull the pound up and down sounds like a simple physical motion. Pound equals heater or tool. So pull the pound reads like pulling a gun out or pulling the trigger. Cam loves making the literal meaning cover the street meaning like a disguise. Up and down is also the aiming motion, and it paints a scene. Up and down can be the motion of raising, lowering the gun, the recoil rhythm of firing, the sweeping motion of tracking someone as they move. So the idea of he's shooting and you're dancing lands because the phrase describes the choreography of violence. Gun moves, body reacts. Turn yourself around equals the cleanest intimidation detail. In the kid song, it's playful. Here it's menacing because it implies you're being controlled. You're reacting, not choosing. You're spinning to avoid what's coming. It's basically, I'm conducting your body with a weapon. Shorty makes it colder and funnier at the same time. Calling someone shorty while threatening them does two things at once. Belittles them, you're not even worthy of serious respect, and it keeps the tone casual, like this is routine. That casualness is what makes the bar funny and scary at the same time. Cam's signature smirk while it's lethal vibe. Okay? Let's talk about the hidden flex, how we make you do it. Me and Toby, we make you is a powerful statement. Not you did, but we caused it. So the real flex isn't just having the pound, it's having the ability to force your body to comply. He turns a kid's dance into a drill. The gun is the instructor, your fear is the choreography. Here's some weed, burn yourself a pound, Wody. Now Cam flips roles from threat to provider. But notice, he gives you something consumable, something that disappears, something that keeps you occupied. This is distraction as control. It's not generosity, it's pacification. Here's a map, go learn yourself a town, sporty. This is low-key one of the coldest lines here. A map is knowledge, access, orientation. But telling someone go learn the town is also saying, you're new here. You don't know the terrain. You're not on my level yet. Cam positions himself as native intelligence. You're still studying. What these two here's lines are really saying. Weed plus map equals false empowerment versus real power. One keeps you busy, one exposes how far behind you are. He's showing the difference between feeling like you're in control versus actually being in control. Here's some weed, burn yourself a pound, Wardy. The word Wardy immediately regionalizes the moment. That's Louisiana, New Orleans slang. So as soon as he says it, the scene shifts. The person he's talking to is either from down south or at least coded as southern. That alone introduces outsider energy. Now the ambiguity starts. On the surface, this sounds welcoming. Here's some weed, burn yourself a pound. Casual tone, familiar slang. It sounds like hospitality, but there's a second layer. Weed is low risk, low status compared to harder product. Burn yourself a pound keeps them busy, distracted, occupied. He's not giving access, he's giving something to consume and disappear. So this can read as, I'll let you smoke, but that's as far as this goes. It's generosity with a ceiling. Here's a map, go learn yourself a town, sporty. This line flips the power dynamic completely. A map is knowledge, but also an admission. You don't know this place. You're not local. You don't have control here yet. Go learn yourself the town sounds friendly, but it's also distancing. He's saying you're still a student here. And Sporty does the same thing Shorty does earlier. Slightly condescending, casual dominance, polite dismissal. It's not let me show you around, it's figure it out yourself. Together the two lines create a trapdoor. This is where our intuition is right. Taken together, the lines allow three simultaneous readings, and Cam never tells you which one is true. The surface welcome, you're in town, here's weed, here's slang, here's a map, do your thing. Soft warning, you can hang out but don't touch real business, don't overstep, don't confuse access with authority. There's a strategic setup, you're an outsider moving in unfamiliar territory. You've been distracted with weed, given false comfort, sent wandering without protection. That's where the J. Prince energy comes in. Not aggression, but controlled environment dominance. Why this is a drug economy reading too. If the person is coming from Louisiana thinking they can operate, weed equals the only lane you're allowed. Map equals you don't know where to go. Learn the town equals you're not plugged in. Tone equals calm, not threatening. That's how real territorial warnings often sound. Not get out, but move carefully. There's the genius of the ambiguity. Cam never resolves whether this is kindness, mockery, strategy, or intimidation, because power doesn't have to explain itself. The listener decides based on how they understand street dynamics. If you're naive, this sounds friendly. If you're experienced, it sounds cautious. If you're paranoid, it sounds dangerous. That's intentional. The cleanest way to frame this is you don't need to accuse him of malice. You can say, this is hospitality written with an asterisk, or Cam welcomes you but on his terms. That keeps all readings alive. And honestly, that ambiguity is the flex.
I was down 40, now I'm up 50.
This is pure trajectory flex, not just profit reversal. He doesn't say how long it took. He doesn't explain the method. The point is movement, from negative to positive, from loss to dominance. Buck 50, buck quickly, who could fuck with me? Now he zooms out. Buck 50 works multiple ways. Money scale, damage scale, escalation. Quickly matters because it implies efficiency, decisiveness, no wasted motion. After everything we just heard, control, distraction, terrain knowledge, this feels earned, not braggy. Originally, the power read was Cam is the local sizing up an outsider. But what I'm proposing now is Cam is the outsider who passed the test. That's not a reach. It's a classic Cam move. He loves identity slippage. Sometimes king of the block, sometimes the guy who just ran a play somewhere else and dipped. I was down 40, now I'm up 50, but quickly. This line is doing temporal compression. Down 40, starting at a deficit. Up 50, profit, not just recovery. Quickly, speed matters more than scale. That reads very cleanly as I came, I flipped, I left. Not long-term establishment, not territorial dominance, not this is my city forever, but efficient movement. That absolutely supports an out-of-town or hustle reading. So now let's reread these previous lines through that lens. If Cam is the one who went down south, here's some weed, burn yourself a pound woody. Southern hospitality extended to him. Here's a map, go learn yourself the town. He's the one being told go figure it out. Those lines don't have to be threats anymore. They become initiation conditions. Like, we'll let you move, but you better know where you are. Why quickly is the telltale word. This is the strongest part of the new read. If Cam were the local, speed wouldn't matter. Longevity would. But he's the outsider. Speed is survival. Lingering is dangerous. Profit plus exit equals success. Buck quickly feels like leave before comfort turns into vulnerability. That's very real. What this does thematically and why it's dope. Now the whole section can hold two truths at once. Sometimes Cam is the gatekeeper. Sometimes Cam is the one who slipped through the gate. Both fit his persona. Adaptable, mobile, opportunistic, never stuck in one role. That's actually more interesting than locking him into one position. Okay? Whether he's the host or the visitor, the flex stays the same. I can enter unfamiliar territory, understand rules fast, make money, and exit clean. That's not about geography, that's about competence. The bottom line is, this isn't a contradiction, it's a role reversal. And Cam's whole thing is being slippery enough that locals think he's one of them. Outsiders think he's passing through. Nobody ever knows exactly how long he's staying. That's ambiguity. That's power. This entire sequence is about who understands movement. You dance when told, you move where allowed, you burn time, you learn territory late. Cam, he already knows the steps, the map, the timing, the leverage. That's why the tone stays playful. He's not frantic, he's comfortable. Cam uses children's games, friendly language, casual offers to describe coercion, hierarchy, control, dominance. So again, people laugh and then realize the joke is that you're the one moving. And that's very on brand for everything we've been pulling up out of this song. This section isn't chaos, it's playful order. And that's contrast. That's Cam at his most dangerous. So look, this is why Cam gets mislabeled. Because he'll hand you a nursery rhyme cadence, a bunch of random proper nouns, some goofy onomatopoeia, and inside that he's running systems, logistics, enforcement, mentorship, insulation, risk, escape. That's not nonsense. That's a mind that understands how power moves, and he disguises it as jokes so you don't feel how cold it really is. And if you made it this far, you're officially the exact type of brain Hidden Bar is for. Now I need one thing from y'all, okay? Drop the one bar in this episode you never heard the same again and tell me why. because I'm building a community of people who don't just listen to rap, we read it. And if you're new here, don't get intimidated by the runtime. This isn't meant to be consumed like fast food. It's meant to be picked apart. That's why the shorts are about to hit different, because every 15 seconds is coming from an hour of depth. Okay? Next episode, Beanie Siegel. Different archetype, same mission. Cam was the trickster. Beanie is the street scripture. So subscribe, turn the notifications on, and remember, if it sounded like bullshit, you probably just weren't listening at the right altitude. Hidden Bar, we out.